only skin deep. Everybody suffers the same fuckery, all the same. Now, this is something that I found interesting because I said this as a theory in my last episode, but it looks like they actually have statistics on postpartum depression in men. So, approximately 10% of new fathers experience symptoms of depression during the postpartum period. That is all they have in it. It says studies have found that 50% of men who have partners diagnosed with postpartum depression will go on to develop depression themselves. It doesn't say postpartum depression, it says they will develop depression. And then it says 10% of new fathers will experience symptoms of depression during the postpartum period. It is not easy to see your significant other in this position, and I feel like that can give way to those experiences and those symptoms. It can't, and apparently they also have statistics for adoptive parents. Postpartum depression it seems a lot towards women who have just given birth, which I do feel is the overriding group we're talking about here. But postpartum literally just means after birth. And I think that it may even be, it's a different kind of hard for adoptive parents and for men, because they don't, part of postpartum depression, what it means to me was that I had a very hard time connecting with my child or with my children when they came out. And it was hard for me to stomach that because I had just been growing them for 9 months. How is it possible that I don't have a good connection? Adoptive parents and men don't have that connection. So in essence, they're also struggling to connect with this person. So I wanted to open up this part of my show with these statistics in mind, to show how common it is in other areas, and maybe it will put some people at ease. But now I want to get to the meat and potatoes of the podcast, which is my experience with my second child. So after we get back from the break, I'm going to jump into my pregnancy with Jamila and the things that I felt led up to my experience with after she was born. Stay tuned and hang in there. All right, and we are back from our little break. So, my experience with Jamila. First off, I would very much so like to say that Jamila was a failed plan B. And that sounds terrible, but it is the truth. So, I already knew when New Year's passed, I was drunk, and I was with my partner that we were bound to have an accident. And I remember I was ovulating that day, and I was like, oh my God, but whatever, accidents happen. As soon as it was done, I looked at my calendar, I saw that I was ovulating, and I was like, absolutely the hell not. It is 1:00 in the morning on New Year's Day. I need to go to Target first thing in the morning and get myself a plan B. And I remember I was sleeping over at his sister's house. So January 2nd comes around, I'm like, cool, gotta go to Target, get myself a plan B. I went. I was very conflicted because I don't like medication, and I was like, boom, I'm gonna take a plan B. Had I known how much it would have failed, I definitely would have saved myself the $50. So I take the plan B, and after much debate, I'm like, okay. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even plan B. It was, what was it? It was like some other brand. It was like, Take something. I don't even remember. But I took it, and I remember feeling just absolutely horrendous. It was gross, but I didn't have any spotting. I didn't have anything afterwards, and I thought that I was good. Now, after this, I was in transition of moving into a new place upstate in West Nyack, from New York. Like I said, I'm from New York. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to move up here. There was this program that was paying for my rent. So everything was set and ready to go. I remember I moved there January 9th. And I was like, okay, great. Mind you, with neither one of my daughters at this point had I experienced any sort of morning sickness. I mean, I had lost the appetite, but no morning sickness. I'm like, okay, no problem. I didn't find out until January 15. January 15, I'm in my new place and I'm unpacking. I'm drinking wine coolers because that is standard to drink alcohol while you're unpacking. And I remember I'm sitting there, drinking, throwing it back. My little Seagrams, Jamaican me happy. That was the flavor. And I saw a pregnancy test in my stuff. I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. I'm never going to need this. Let me use it right now. So that way I can just use it and, whatever. Because it would be really funny if they came out positive. I go into the bathroom, a little bit drunk, pee on the stick, turned out positive. I instantly picked up my wine cooler, went over to the sink, and dumped it. And I sat there for the longest time. And I was like, nope, this has got to be wrong. I got behind the wheel of my car. I went to the local Walmart, and I bought another one with 2 tests. Peed on them both, which was easy because I'd been drinking. And they came out positive again. The level of depression that sat in my soul, okay, my absolute bottom of my soul was real. I could not stop crying. I was in school. I was supposed to, really do something for myself. I was supposed to finish getting my bachelor's degree. I had no job. I had just moved into a studio apartment that was perfect for me and my daughter. I was not in an active relationship at the time, although I desperately wanted to be, with my kid's dad. And things were just not clicking. I mean, obviously, we were still clicking, for lack of a better term, but there were just things between us that it was like, no, it wasn't working out. No matter how much I wanted it to work out, we were just so different. The very next day, I call him and I'm like, we need to talk. Which was a huge mistake because he's like me. Don't tell me you need to talk. We're not going to talk in that moment. He instantly calls me and asks what's going on. And I start crying. I absolutely lose it. And I'm like, I came out pregnant and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just sitting there and I'm whining and I'm talking about all of this. And for the life of me right now, I really can't remember how he felt during the conversation. But it was kind of just like, okay, we're going to put a pin in this and we're going to talk about it later. He's never been one to panic. So he was kind of just like, okay, well, what do you want to do? It was the first time in my life that I had really discussed abortion as an option. We weren't together, and I felt like it wasn't a good look on me that I was getting pregnant by the person I already had a kid with, even though we weren't together. And all I could sit there and focus on was, oh my God, I am a single mom with 1 child, and now I'm about to be a single mom with 2 children. How hard is this going to be? I have no job. I wanted to get back to the workforce. Adriana's already 10 months old, and I'm still breastfeeding. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I talked about abortion, and it seemed like that was the way to go. But I was so far from, I didn't even really have health insurance at the time. As a veteran, I did, but I had a very low disability rating at the time, and I'm sorry, but the VA is not really equipped for these kind of issues. And I don't know if it's because women issues are severely undervalued at the VA, or because it's not really anything that has to do like having an abortion is not service connected. It's just not. So I didn't know what I was going to do. And, I signed up for Medicaid and all that other stuff. And I went to go get prices. I went to go see what was going to happen. But I was already a mother. And the idea of getting rid of a child, it tore at my soul. I couldn't do it. And I went to go discuss these options with a doctor, and they gave me timelines and on top of that, I was absolutely terrified that I was going to be pregnant with another girl because I could not stomach the idea of having another girl. And that's because some part of me felt that, see, he comes from a very female heavy family, and he did have kids before we met, and he had females, he had daughters. I felt like before we had Adriana, we dreamed about having a son. He wanted a son. And then if I had another girl, there was just another opportunity squandered there, because if we weren't together now, we were doing this by mistake. What were the odds that we were going to do it a third time and get the son that we wanted? And for some reason in my mind, I correlated, or I'm not going to say for some reason, there were reasons why I felt the way that I did, but I felt like if we had a son, there was an opportunity for us to fix things. But he is the only boy amongst 7 sisters. He had majority daughters to that point. It just, the odds weren't in our favor at all. So, and I came from, like, my dad had 2 sisters, and my dad had I believe he has 3 sisters. He had 2 daughters himself and only 1 son. So I was terrified that I was going to be pregnant with another girl. And as the weeks crawled by, then I find out that I had like a subchorionic hemorrhage, which is basically just a blood sac in your womb. And the doctor told me it was because, it's usually just a little misstep, a little hiccup that happens during implantation. And then a whole new level of guilt set in, because I was like, oh my God, because I tried to take a plan B, this baby was like, no, I'm not having it. And I could have seriously hurt my baby. I basically almost took like the abortion pill. So that was just another thing that was sitting on my shoulders. I talked to him and I told him, I was like, I can't do this. I can't abort this baby. We sat down, we talked about it, and it felt like a really long conversation, and I felt like I was kind of ruining his life. Part of me was like, we already have a kid, and maybe this will be the thing that brings us together, but I just couldn't have one because as a mother, I couldn't destroy what was going on in my body and still feel good about myself. I just couldn't. I'm a firm believer that while this should be an option for women, this is an option you have to make for yourself, or a decision you have to make for yourself. I couldn't live with it. I was concerned about what the ramifications would be. And I was the one who was irresponsible. Did I try to stop it from happening? Yes. But also I was still irresponsible. And I don't think that a child should have to pay for my mistakes as a woman. So I decided to have her. When I decided to have her, I gave him an out if he needed it. I'm very happy to say that he didn't take it. And he looked at me like I was crazy for offering. But, I told him, I was like, you really don't. It was also a little bit more complex because we already had a kid. So it was like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna continue being there for this kid and then not for the new one on the way. There were a lot of things that I was concerned about in my pregnancy with Jamila because I was still reeling, still catching myself as a mom. And then I was going to school, and then I was like, okay, I need to put some money in my bank. So I started working as a work study. And I hadn't had a job since before the service, or since I got out of the service. My last job was as a soldier. So I went to work, and my pregnancy just progressed while I was at school and while I was at work. I kept going. I took on as many classes as I could. As time went on, things between me and him didn't seem to be getting any more stable. I wanted to know desperately where we stood and what we were doing, and I didn't feel like I was getting clear answers. And without delving into too much detail about what was going on in our relationship, it just didn't seem hopeful. And then I did have some hope because towards the end of my pregnancy, he started